Woody Allen has made over 50 films. He has watched exactly 0 of them after completion. Not at premieres, not at home, not even once. Not Annie Hall, which won Best Picture. Not Manhattan, which critics call his masterpiece. Not even the failures he might want to understand better. Because the moment Woody finishes editing a film, the moment he makes the final cut and locks the picture, that film stops being his and becomes something he cannot control. And that terrifies him more than any critic ever could. It is not modesty. It is not artistic mystique. It is survival. Because watching his own work would mean confronting the gap between what he intended and what he achieved, would mean surrendering control to become an audience member judging his own creation, would mean sitting with imperfection he could no longer fix. And for Woody Allen, that feels like death. But the real story had never been only about avoiding screenings. The pattern began in 1969 with his first real film as writer-director, Take the Money and Run. Woody had worked in television, written screenplays others directed, but this was different. This was complete creative control. His vision from script to screen, his jokes, his timing, his choices determining everything. The production was chaotic, low budget, minimal experience. Woody learning to direct while directing. The editor, Ralph Rosenblum, essentially saved the film in post-production, restructuring scenes that did not work, finding rhythm in material that had none. But eventually it was done, locked, ready for release. United Artists scheduled a premiere, press screening, industry showing, the normal machinery of launching a film. Woody was expected to attend, to sit in the theater and watch his creation with an audience for the first time. He tried. He genuinely tried. He put on a suit, went to the screening room, took a seat in the back row. The lights dimmed. The projector started. His film appeared on screen, and within 5 minutes Woody was in the lobby, sweating, unable to breathe. Not because the film was bad, though he saw every flaw, every joke that did not land, every edit that felt wrong, but because sitting there, powerless to change anything, forced to experience his work as an audience member rather than a creator, felt like watching himself die. In the editing room, he had control. He could adjust timing, change cuts, fix problems. But in the theater, the film was finished, permanent, beyond his reach. And all he could see was imperfection he could no longer address. He left, did not watch the rest, did not stay for reactions, just walked out into Manhattan night air, gasping, knowing he could never do that again. The film opened commercially the next week. Critics were kind. Audiences liked it. The movie made money. But Woody never saw it. Not then, not ever. When reporters asked him about specific scenes, he answered vaguely. When critics referenced moments they loved, he nodded without confirmation. He remembered making those scenes. He did not remember watching them because he never had. United Artists executives were confused. Don't you want to see how it plays with an audience? No, Woody said simply. The film is finished. I'm working on the next one. This was not a publicity stance. It was genuine psychological necessity. The moment a film was complete, Woody's relationship with it ended. Not because he did not care, but because caring too much, continuing to engage with something he could no longer control, would destroy him. Over the following years, the pattern solidified into ritual. Woody would write, direct, edit obsessively, then lock the cut, attend 0 screenings, read 0 reviews, and immediately begin the next project. Bananas in 1971. Never watched it. Play It Again, Sam in 1972. Never watched it. Sleeper in 1973. Never watched it. Each film the same. Intensive control during production. Complete abandonment after completion. The creative process was everything. The finished product was nothing. Friends asked if he was curious. "I know what's in it," Woody would say. "I made it. Why would I watch it?" But that was not quite true. He knew what he intended. He did not know what he achieved. Did not know how audiences experienced it. Did not know which jokes landed and which fell flat. He chose not to know. By Annie Hall in 1977, Woody's refusal to watch his own films had become part of his legend. The film was a phenomenon, cultural touchstone, nominated for 5 Oscars. But on Oscar night, Woody was playing clarinet at Michael's Pub, as we know. And when the film won Best Picture, he did not celebrate by watching it. He had never seen it, would never see it. Diane Keaton, who starred in the film and won Best Actress, found this baffling. "How can you not want to see it?" she asked. "It's beautiful. People love it." "I'm sure it's fine," Woody said. "But I made it. I don't need to consume it." The distinction was crucial. Creating and consuming were different acts requiring different relationships to the work. Creating required control, obsession, perfectionism. Consuming required surrender, acceptance, judgment. Woody could not do both. For most artists, the premiere is validation, the moment when private creation becomes public reception, when you discover if the thing you made connects with others. But for Woody, that moment was terror. Because public reception meant losing control, meant the film becoming something independent of his intentions, meant imperfection he could never fix being judged permanently. So he simply refused to participate, finished the work, let it go, moved on. The psychological mechanism was clear to anyone paying attention. Woody was not avoiding bad reviews. He did not read those either. He was avoiding the experience of being an audience member to his own work. Because audience members cannot fix what they see. They can only judge. And judgment without the power to revise felt unbearable. Manhattan, in 1979, was shot in black and white, accompanied by Gershwin, structured like a love letter to New York. Critics called it Woody's masterpiece. Cinematographer Gordon Willis created images that would be studied for decades. But Woody saw it only in the editing room. Once locked, it was dead to him. Decades passed. Films accumulated. Some were successful, some failed. Zelig, Broadway Danny Rose, The Purple Rose of Cairo, Hannah and Her Sisters, Crimes and Misdemeanors, each completed, released, experienced by millions. But never by their creator. Journalists tried to understand. "Don't you want to know if your work holds up?" "It is what it is," Woody would say. "Watching it won't change it." True, but watching might change how he felt about it. Might reveal that some films were better than he remembered, that some jokes worked better than he thought, that the gap between intention and achievement was sometimes smaller than his anxiety suggested. He did not want to know, because knowing would not help. If a film was good, he would feel he could have made it better. If a film was bad, he would feel the failure permanently. Either way, suffering without solution. So the ritual protected him. Finish the work. Let it go. Start fresh. Each film a closed chapter. Never revisited. Never reconsidered. Simply made and released like messages in bottles, floating away while he remained on shore, already writing the next message. The habit extended beyond his own viewing. He did not attend premieres, so he never saw audience reactions, did not read reviews, so critics' judgments remained unknown, did not check box office numbers obsessively. Once a film was released, it existed in a space he chose not to enter. Friends would mention seeing his films. "I watched Manhattan again last night." That scene where Woody would change the subject, not rudely, just firmly. The film was finished. He was working on something else. Past work was past. Only forward motion mattered. This was not artistic arrogance. It was the opposite. Deep insecurity disguised as discipline. The fear that confronting his own work would reveal inadequacy he could not bear to acknowledge. Every artist lives with the gap between vision and execution. What you imagine versus what you create. For most, that gap is painful but navigable. For Woody, it was intolerable, so he simply refused to measure it. In the editing room, perfection was still possible. One more cut, one different take, better timing. The film could still be improved. But once locked, once released, imperfection became permanent, and permanent imperfection was unbearable. So he learned to end his relationship with each film at the moment it became unchangeable. Not watching was not indifference. It was self-preservation. Younger filmmakers found this incomprehensible. How do you learn if you never watch your work? But Woody was not interested in learning from past mistakes. He was interested in making new things. The creative process was where he lived. The finished product was something for others. Over 50 films. Over 50 times he finished editing, locked the picture, and never looked back. Match Point, Vicky Cristina Barcelona, Midnight in Paris, Blue Jasmine, each complete, each released, each existing in the world, none existing in Woody's private experience. When Midnight in Paris became his highest-grossing film, people asked if he was pleased. "I'm glad people liked it," he said, "but I haven't seen it." "Don't you want to?" "No." Not angry, not defensive, just matter of fact. The film was done. His relationship with it had ended the moment editing finished. The ritual revealed something profound about artistic creation. For Woody, the value was in the making, not the made. The process mattered. The product was simply evidence the process happened. Other artists revisit their work, revise, re-release, director's cuts. But Woody locked each film and walked away. One version, done, permanent, move forward. This approach meant learning nothing from audience reception, not knowing which experiments worked, which risks paid off, which films connected most deeply. He made each film in isolation, trusting only his own judgment, never calibrating against response. Some people saw this as integrity, artistic purity unmarred by commercial concerns. Others saw it as neurosis, pathological fear masquerading as principle. Both were true. Woody's refusal to watch his films was simultaneously admirable discipline and psychological avoidance. Commitment to forward motion and inability to face past work. Strength and weakness inseparable. In his 80s, still making a film every year, the pattern remained unbroken. 50-plus films, 0 viewings after completion. A career defined as much by what he refused to see as by what he created. Archivists would ask about preserving his work. Film students would request commentary tracks. Retrospectives would invite him to discuss specific scenes. Always the same answer: "I don't watch my films." The statement was simple, but radical. In a culture obsessed with legacy, with defining artistic importance through historical reception, Woody opted out completely. Made the work, released it, forgot it, repeated. The films exist, People watch them, study them, love them, debate them. But their creator does not participate in that secondary life. He remains in the primary act of creation, where control is possible and imperfection can still be addressed. Sometimes interviewers would push, "But don't you wonder what you achieved?" "I achieved what I achieved," Woody would say. "Watching won't change it." And that was true, but it missed the deeper point. Woody did not refuse to watch because it would not change the films. He refused because it would change him, would force him to confront the gap between what he intended and what he made, would require him to be judged by his own work, and that judgment, even self-judgment, especially self-judgment, was something he could not survive. So the ritual protected him. Let him keep making. Let him avoid the paralysis that comes from dwelling on permanent imperfection. Let him live in the future rather than the past. 50 films created and abandoned. 50 times Woody Allen wrote, directed, edited obsessively, then walked away forever. Not from indifference, from necessity. Because for him, the moment a film was finished, it became something that could only disappoint. Better never to look. Better to preserve the memory of making rather than confront the reality of what was made. The film he never watched was not one film. It was every film. And that refusal, that systematic, lifelong avoidance of his own work, was perhaps the most honest thing about him. He knew himself well enough to know that watching would destroy him. So he chose blindness, chose forward motion, chose the next film over confronting the last one. And in that choice, revealed something true about artistic creation, that sometimes the bravest thing is not to look back, not to measure, not to judge, just to make, release, and make again. 50 films no one has watched less than their creator. 50 films floating in the world while Woody Allen remains on shore, already writing the next one, never looking back at what sailed away. That is the story. The film he never watched, and the 50 others, and the reason why some artists create not to be remembered, but to avoid remembering.